Oh, can I overshare on the internet for a second? We know each other well now. I need some new knickers. Like, actually kind of badly. If you are new to this channel, you might not know, but I have given up buying new clothes last year, and this year I've given myself a very select amount of tokens, like very limited amount of clothes I'm introducing. And safe to say, none of those tokens have gone on pants and socks. It just feels like not a significant enough purchase. However, without having to actually show you my underwear drawer on the internet for obvious reasons, I'll give you a little idea of how it's looking by showing you my sock collection. Yeah, it's pretty bad. And with 3 months left to go until this challenge is over and I'm allowed to buy knickers again, I don't think we're gonna make it. So I am being forced to face my biggest fear, which is stretch fabric. I have been sewing and documenting the process of it on and off for about 5 years, and I have never sewn a garment with stretch fabric. It scares me. I've tried little scraps of it and it went wrong. I'm quite a go-getter, but I do feel like when something like the vibes are off with me starting something, I just like set it aside and go on with one of my many other projects and curiosities and glittery things that I want to mess with, and I just move on. However, the day of reckoning has come. I got this stretch fabric from Vinted. I only need 1/2 meter. And there's quite a lot of it. So if this goes well, I could potentially make underwear for my whole town. And I've got this sewing pattern, which says on it, award-winning, easy to follow sewing pattern. And it says it's for confident beginners. I would still class myself as a beginner. A confident beginner, I'm not sure, but these two people look like they're having a great time. And another thing that annoys me about knickers is that they're really hard to find nice high-waisted ones in fun colours. They're either just like black or white or beige, or they've got like loads of tiny little flowers on them. And I'm not a tiny little flowers kind of lady. I'm like a big flowers or leopard print or stripe, big splashes of colour kind of lady. And I think I deserve knickers to match my personality. So I thought that I would take you along on the journey. Even if you're not a sewist, I think this will be comedy. Because let's face it, I'm gonna fuck it up. And hopefully it gives you an idea of how much goes into making the little things that are in our lives, like knickers. Sewing is a really hard skill, and one that I didn't fully appreciate until I started trying it. And because a lot of the clothes that are available to buy on the high street in the UK are made by women in other countries who usually aren't white, I think that we're encouraged to dismiss their work and pay very little for it. So I hope that even if you don't want to do this yourself, and who can blame you, you might at least be able to glean some of like the backstage process of what goes into the stuff that you put on your bum every day. Let's go. And by that, I mean, let's go to the town where my hairdresser is, because not only is my hair getting to that my husband is running for Congress kind of length that I don't love on me, but also there are several fabric shops there. And in those fabric shops, there will hopefully be narrow stretch lace or fold over elastic, which is what I need for the legs and the waist of this little monstrosity I'm about to make. I also need some lining fabric apparently, but I don't really see a reason why I can't just use like more of this fabric to line it. So we'll see if I get any of that. And I think there's room in my bag, so you should come with me. Let's go. So we have secured the underwear elastic. I did have to go to 2 shops, so apparently it's not something that everybody stocks all the time. And I also had to like rummage around for it and ask where they stocked it because it wasn't immediately obvious. But I'm really glad I got it. I got 3 meters, which I think might be a little bit overkill. But I really didn't want to be stuck without any. And in the end, I went for navy because there weren't that many choices of elastic. And I felt like it was a slightly less stark contrast than black. It's a really murky day, so I'm going to sit down and cut out my pattern while listening to the bell jar, because a murky day deserves a murky book. I say lean into the vibes. Let's go. Okay, first mistake of the project was made. Probably the first of many. Now, what was cool about this pattern was I realised I didn't need all the pieces that were laid out because there's actually like 2 sets of sizes and I am at the lower limit of the bigger size. So I actually didn't need to cut out that many pieces. However, on each piece, it has some options. You can cut a high rise, a mid-rise or a low-rise waist. I wanted a high-rise waist, so that's what I did. However, I wasn't also paying attention to the fact that there are 3 leg rise options. So you can have a high leg, saucy, a mid leg or a low leg. Now I would love a low leg. I would like to keep my bum as warm as possible. So once I realised that I'd cut a high leg when I really wanted a low leg. But it's okay because I just retrieved the paper and I restuck it to the pattern and nobody will know. Just you and me. It's fine. Cutting out jersey stretchy fabric is much harder than cutting out static fabric, and it did wiggle around quite a lot, especially with the crotch. I had to really fold it over and make sure it was symmetrical because it wanted to wriggle away from me. And while I love using a book as a pattern weight to keep your patterns in place, I would not advise using ones with beautiful ribbons in them because you will almost cut the ribbon off. Don't do that. However, we now have 3 pattern pieces which in theory are going to become my knickers. They do look quite big right now, but I know that there is going to be like seam allowance, and also because I'm at the bottom of the big size, if it all goes wrong and they're too big, I could recut out the pattern as the biggest size in the small size. Does that make sense? Mid-size privilege. Right, I guess all that remains is to actually start sewing. Why am I scared? Okay, these are starting to resemble, dare I say it, knickers. Look at that. There's a gusset, got a little flap for the gusset. Do you see the vision? Next is putting on the elastic. So I thought, and in a lot of the very rough little videos I've seen of people making knickers, is that you would sew up these seams on either side to make the vague structure of pants, and then you sew the elastic around all the holes your limbs go through and your stomach. But for these ones, you're actually supposed to sew the elastic on before you put them together, which, you think about it, is actually easier because sewing in a circle, presumably very much harder than sewing in a straight line. But to do that, you have to kind of get the tension right and work out how tight you want your leg holes before you do it. So thanks to a wonderful woman on the internet giving a tutorial and advising this, I have done some test strips to see what my zigzag stitches look like. Spoiler alert, not very good on the first few attempts. And then to work out how tightly you pull the elastic as you tie it to the main body, because that determines how pinchy it is around your thighs. And that is actually a huge bugbear of mine with normal pants, and something that I would like the opportunity to correct and customize for my own requirements with this. So I started off semi-pulling it like that. Then I really pulled it really tight, and that's wrinkling the fabric and is obviously not very good. And then here I just kind of left it and I didn't pull it that much, and that's not very stretchy. So I think I'm going to go with this medium stretch kind of weight, and it's just something you have to feel with your hands, kind of like get a feel for how tight you like it. So I think that muscle memory is in my brain long enough for me to do a leg. Let's find out. Okay, this is what we're working with so far. As you can see, all the trimmings went on, and I will say that dark colours are very forgiving because that is a very wobbly zigzag line, but it is there and the crotch is stretching. So we like that. It kind of looks like a weird hourglass shape right now, but I'm essentially going to, I'll just show you. I'm going to fold this bit over this bit. I'm going to sew down this side, and then I'm going to do the elastic around the waist in one big line. Then I'm going to sew up the other side, and then, in theory, we'll have some knickers. But, like, don't count on it because my skill level is 1 and I cannot be trusted. But we can try. Do you want to see my pants? a sentence I never thought I'd say on the internet. Here they are. You're not even ready. I am actually so proud of them. They are my children. I'm sorry that I can't model them for you in person, but trust me, they look cool. Unfortunately, if the internet was more normal, I would show you, but I simply can't. However, they fit me perfectly on the bottom, but the top, they are a little bit loose. As you can see, I got a little bit cocky with the way I was attaching the elastic, and I don't think I was pulling the elastic tightly enough. So it is a little bit floppy on the top, and they do come up like crazy. Like, I have high-waisted pants, and these top them. These are like basically at the bottom of my boobs, although I do have quite a short body, so maybe that wouldn't be like that on you. It's so interesting to see that while it was a learning curve, the first leg looks so much more wonky and haphazard than the second leg, which actually started to look kind of profesh, if I do say so myself. So in that really small amount of time, like the amount of time being 5 minutes, I already saw a huge improvement in how I was doing it. And now I know how to do it. I feel like making a pair of underwear would probably take me about 90 minutes tops. And if I was batch making them, I could have a whole set in a day. I feel confident about that. And I'm quite a slow sewer. Here's what the inside looks like. Here's what my seams look like. Another reason I was so scared to make underwear was because I don't have a serger. Now, for non-sewists, you might not know, but sergers are like an elite extra machine that a lot of people have that make the finishes in your clothing that you can probably see on all of your items. It's just like a way that shop walk clothes are finished, and you can just finish things with a zigzag stitch, but it's not considered as profesh. And I had read that with stretch fabric it's much better to have a serger. However, they are like £350, and I've just never been able to bring myself to get one or make room for storing one in my house as well as my sewing machine. But I am relieved to report that at no point in this process did I think, God, I wish I had a serger. Like, this was so doable on a normal sewing machine. I had no problems, apart from with my own errors. Like, it wasn't the machine holding me back, it was me. I'm the problem, it's me. There are really simple beginner problems, like, can you see that these seams don't line up whatsoever, but it doesn't affect the functionality of the pants, and this is just my first pair. I will definitely be making more pairs, and I think I will probably opt for the mid-rise and maybe try a slightly higher leg. But the beauty with this pattern is that you can just chop parts off, and then, as you saw when I made a mistake at the beginning of the video, reattach parts should you want to go back to the original shape of the pattern. So I am chuffed beyond belief, and I think including the elastic and the value of the fabric, which was secondhand, I want to say these probably cost me about £2 total in materials to make. I think I can probably confidently say that I will never darken the doors of M&S again to buy my knickers. M&S is probably one of the most favourite places for British people to get their underwear. It's like kind of where your granny says, you should get your pants from M&S, they'll last a lifetime. And one, I would like to attest to the fact that in my lifetime that has never been true. They have kind of eroded at the same rate as other kinds of underwear I've tried. It has come to my attention of late that M&S are not the wholesome British high street brand they used to be. In fact, they're a huge conglomerate who are, for most intents and purposes, and as reported by many external commentators and outside assessors, fast fashion. Fashion Revolution transparency rating, 48 out of 100. Ethical consumer score, 3 out of 15. Good on you sustainability rating, 3 out of 5. They use tax avoidance schemes. They have like holdings in loads of different tax havens. They use a shit ton of polyester. Their design cycles are getting shorter and shorter and just making more and more items. And frankly, over the years, and as I've made videos about before, I'll link them up here and in the description, I have had the huge revelation that sewing is only as hard as cooking or gardening or driving, like normal skill level things that we take it for granted that we do when we can't afford to outsource it. And obviously I know it's not possible for absolutely everybody, but I am on a mission to make it more normalized to know how to make the basic items that you need for your wardrobe, or at least to mend the stuff that you have. And I cannot believe that everyone who'd sewn their own knickers was right when they said it was easy to do. But I'm so glad that they were, because I will be making about another 100 pairs of these, especially also because I have a certain style in my real wardrobe that isn't often reflected in the underwear market. I'm not a lacy girly. I'm not a floral girly, and I am fundamentally and spiritually against the colour beige and white. So for years I have just lived in plain black underwear, but no more! I am no longer Cat Stratford. My underwear drawer is going to be as colourful as my brain, and I can't wait. Thank you so much for watching this video. It was made possible and obviously doesn't have a sponsor. Imagine if this was sponsored by M&S underwear or another underwear company. That would be absolutely unhinged. It's not sponsored because of the support of the Gumption Club. They are my patrons who tip me for all of the stuff that I do, so we can keep talking about nuance and consumerism and discovering new things on this channel in peace and quiet. So thank you so much to them, and if you're interested in joining, I'll leave the links below. I have documented the whole of not only my fashion journey on this channel, but also my journey into making my own clothes. So if you are interested in that journey, any of these videos might suit. Thank you so much for watching. From me and my knickers, frog snog out. Bye!